Well, hi there, everybody. Rati Gorfin here of Creative Calling Coaching, doing my bi weekly live stream. And as always, we kick it off with a draw from the Kabbalah deck of the Hebrew alphabet, also the Tree of Life. But today we pulled a letter, and it's a lovely letter. It really is. Ayin. It begins the word for the tree of life in Hebrew, which I don't remember off the top of my head, but it doesn't matter because the significance of that is that Hebrews, the Torah, the Kabbalistic experts, they liken the energy of Ayin, to the awareness that we are all a microcosm. We are all the tree of life. And that there is so much that goes on, not visible to the naked eye. And when you connect to the energy of Ayin, you are penetrating an issue and seeing it clearly. You are dispelling illusion. It allows discernment. So when you draw this letter in a divinatory spread, you can apply it to a situation in your life where you could use that kind of insight, that kind of penetrating vision when it comes to a person, place, thing, or situation. I think collectively, we have to constantly be applying the energy of Ayin to, well, I'm going to get political, the resident of the White House, right? Because being the master of distraction that he is, he's doing something, signing an executive order or doing something to regulate Twitter because he was shamed by their putting a fraud alert on one of his tweets, right? So he is doing that. Meanwhile, there are riots in Michigan over the murder of a young Black man yet again, and we are in the midst of a pandemic, and it's not a boast. We have the highest number of casualties of anywhere on the planet. We are just about a third of the deaths on this planet from COVID-19. So any world leader would be focused on that stuff, you would imagine. But we're in the situation we're in for a reason, and it requires discernment to see that clearly and to also see clearly what actions need to be taken by the powers that be, but also for all of us. Obviously, in my opinion, vote blue. If you don't agree, you probably wouldn't want to work with me as a coach anyway. Okay. Ayin, Ayin. Now, Ayin also allows us to recognize serendipity, how one thing connects to another, how one event connects to another. The act of pulling a card itself reveals that serendipity. I've found it to be consistently so whenever I've done these live streams. And in the last couple of days, I've really been working to harness my own focus on a couple of projects because this is my off coaching week. So it is incumbent upon me to get shit done. And I have a book proposal I'm working on and a course that I'm launching, and it is far too easy to get hijacked every which way and to not even recognize or discern what's a distraction and what isn't at times. Very often, an overriding sense of obligation to take care of someone else's need. I know this is familiar to a lot of people who have kids, or married, whatever. Everybody else's needs need to be taken care of first. Um, I work with people who feel they have to do this, that, and the other thing before they can proceed on a project. Usually that's a distraction. Usually they can cut through, step over the laundry, whatever it is, and get to work. But it takes a certain amount of metacognition and awareness to recognize our avoidant behavior. And Ayin is a tool, is a type of focus that can allow us to do that. I'm exploring something called the flow method right now, which is, I believe, akin to the Pomodoro method. It is an adaptation, I think, of sorts. It has to do with, and the flow method was created by my coach, Monica Shah. It has to do with taking set blocks of time interspersed with breaks to get a large body of work done in a short period. And so what it requires is you're knowing what it is you want to accomplish going in, what you are going to work on, having those materials available to you so you don't waste a lot of time dealing with that. And then once you start the timer, staying with the project no matter what. And it is amazing over the course of 25 minutes what can come up. And it is also amazing how you learn to attain your focus if you do not allow yourself to leave the chair, right? So, for instance, I was working on this book proposal today, and from the top, it would have been very easy to abandon ship because I found a lot of the questions daunting, right? Particularly the whole synopsis requirement. So I couldn't leave the chair for 25 minutes. In the past, I might have said, well, I'm not prepared to write the synopsis. I have to really figure out all these other things first. But instead, I went through the proposal and looked at what I could do, starting with filling in my name and address. Lame, I know. Other questions were much easier to answer throughout the proposal and, interestingly, rather informed my attack on the synopsis. And it wasn't until really the third flow or 25-minute segment that were interspersed with 5-minute breaks until my subconscious allowed me to crack the code. All those other flows, which were very productive, interspersed with jumping on the elliptical, which allowed me to get my steps in. Now that's multitasking, using the break in that way. Allowed my subconscious to deal with the bigger, harder questions so that finally I was able to start to come up with chapters and little treatments for those chapters. There's a name for that, and I forget what it is. Abstracts. Yes, coming up with abstracts for each segment of the book. I had to move through a lot of resistance to get there. And what allowed me to do that was the lack of escape, adhering to this form. And it allowed me to see clearly my distractions for what they are. Just that. Ways to avoid imperfection by not really ever getting started. So, again, I really like how this letter Ayin and the energy connected to that really plays in to the topic of today, which really is about discerning distractions, whether it is on the national level or it is on the personal level. What's real? What's an illusion? Where's the sleight of hand? What's a red herring? For those of you who don't know that expression, a red herring is a distraction. I have to look up the derivation of it. I don't know. If you care to do that, if you're that kind of a geek and you want to post it in the comments, I'd be heartily amused. So it's hard for me to just wax on in oblivion. I don't think this doesn't need to be a long live stream. I think for the most part I've made my point. What I want to experiment with now to see if I can stop the screen share so that boom, there is nothing but me. Hello. I'm still getting used to this lovely platform, StreamYard, which has allowed me to do things easily and create a Facebook flow that way, a Facebook stream that way. Anyway, between now and Tuesday, I invite you to activate your metacognition and get clear on what your distractions are. There are obvious ones, obviously. Facebook being one of them. I'm, of course, excluding this live stream, email, etc. But, you know, it can be subtler than that. Things that seem very justifiable can be distractions. So once you decide, and that's why you got to give things deadlines, because without deadlines, the distractions will prevail. All right. So I don't want to go into too much more free associative riffing because I don't want to dilute the point of this live stream, which has to do with that penetrating Ayin energy and discernment in the interest of knowing and acting on what matters in your life and in your work. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you'll share it with friends. I hope you'll suggest topics. And I will see everybody again on Tuesday. Bye-bye.